Hello, and welcome to the Toshogu Podcast, where we break down the latest news, breakthroughs, and ideas shaping the future of artificial intelligence. So, imagine waking up tomorrow, checking your phone, and finding out that the core software your entire business relies on is suddenly, well, considered illegal in 27 countries. I mean, while big tech has been unusually quiet lately, a massive regulatory shift literally just went live across the Atlantic that completely changes how we build and sell software. We are officially moving away from this era of, abstract AI prototypes and entering a world of mandatory, auditable operating systems. Let's begin.
It really is a pretty surreal moment for the industry right now, because if you look at the landscape, you have OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Microsoft, AWS, NVIDIA.
All the heavy hitters?
Yeah, exactly, all the heavy hitters.
Okay.
And they're all experiencing what is essentially a dead zone for major product launches. Like, the hype machine has just completely paused.
It's silent.
It is, but that silence is honestly deafening because of the sheer panic rushing in to fill the void.
Panic is the right word. Because instead of those, breathless Twitter threads about the newest iterative update to a language model, the entire software industry is scrambling.
Scrambling hard.
Yeah, and why? Because as of August 2, 2026, the European Union officially moved the AI Act into its operational enforcement phase. And for you listening right now, I mean, this is not some distant milestone marked on a calendar for 2030. It went live. We are no longer in the prepare for AI regulation phase. We are aggressively in the prove it phase.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to me, this feels like a monumental shift in how we fundamentally conceptualize software deployment.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like the difference between knowing that building codes exist in theory versus the building inspector actually showing up on your construction site, clipboard in hand, demanding to pull up your floorboards to check the wiring before you can lay another brick.
What's fascinating here is that this particular building inspector isn't just checking construction sites in Europe.
Wait, what do you mean? Well, the blast radius of this operational enforcement ignores geographic borders completely. Like, if you're a mid-market company based in Spain, this is obviously an immediate critical reality for your daily operations.
Right, obviously.
But let's say you are a listener running a tech startup based in Miami. You don't have an office in Europe, but you serve European customers. Or maybe you supply an AI-enabled scheduling service to a logistics firm in Berlin.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah, the moment your AI touches the European market, you are suddenly in scope. You are on the hook.
Which is a terrifying wake-up call for companies that thought they could just coast on the fact that they aren't physically headquartered in Paris.
Right.
And a huge part of this new reality hinges on something called Article 50, which really brings us to transparency.
Yeah, and we need to completely redefine what transparency means here. Under Article 50, providers are legally obligated to design their systems so that people are explicitly informed when they are interacting with an AI.
Okay, explicitly.
Exactly. It cannot be a secret and it cannot be ambiguous. If you are running a generative system, you have to support the reliable identification of AI-generated or manipulated content. We are talking about mandatory machine-readable marking.
I have to stop you there and push back on this a little bit, because when you say transparency obligations, my mind immediately goes to the way we handle, web cookies.
Oh, right, the pop-ups.
Yeah, or terms of service. If I visit a website, I get a banner, I click accept all without reading a single word, and I move on with my life. Surely companies can just add a standard legal footer to their chatbots.
A footer.
Yeah, like a little italicized text at the bottom saying, hey, I'm an AI, don't sue us, and call it a day, right? Why is this such a massive panic-inducing lift?
Because the cookie banner approach will absolutely fail an audit under this new regime.
Really?
Oh yeah. Disclosure can no longer be treated as a legal footer slapped onto a user interface as an afterthought. It has to be fundamentally engineered into the entire customer journey.
Okay, engineered how? Let's explain this for the listener. What does engineered into the journey actually look like if I am, say, a bank using a customer service bot? Does the AI have to literally interrupt the conversation to declare its non-human status?
Think about the life cycle of that banking interaction.
Yeah.
Compliance means there must be visible, unmistakable identification at the very first millisecond of the interaction.
Wow.
The user has to know immediately what they are dealing with. But it goes much deeper than just saying, hello, I am a bot. There has to be a clear, entirely frictionless escalation path. to a human being.
So you can't trap a frustrated customer in one of those endless automated loops where they are just screaming representative into their phone or keyboard?
Precisely. The system must have operational off-ramps.
Okay.
Furthermore, the system must maintain meticulous auditable records of the generated outputs, and there must be robust controls for any content that actually leaves the platform.
So if a marketing agency is using AI to generate ad campaigns, it's not just about the moment of creation. The label has to stick to the asset.
That is the machine-readable marking I mentioned earlier. For content platforms, the provenance and the labeling of that content have to survive the entire publishing and distribution workflow.
That sounds incredibly complicated.
It is. If you generate a synthetic image for an ad, the metadata proving it was AI generated can't just mysteriously vanish when someone right-clicks and saves it or uploads it to a social media platform. The transparency must travel with the asset.
But surely the EU is giving businesses a breather here. There has to be some massive grace period, right? A 2-year runaway for companies to figure out how to bake permanent metadata into their image generators.
There is no general grace period.
None.
Basically none. The transition period is incredibly narrow, applying only to certain legacy systems that were already on the market before this enforcement phase began. And even then, it's mostly restricted to just the marking and detection rules.
For everything else.
For everything else, the switch has been flipped. You are either compliant today or you are in violation today.
Which brings us to the really intimidating part of this whole shift, which is the actual enforcement. We are witnessing the sudden, almost violent end of the Wild West era of autonomous AI.
Completely.
We're moving from a world where a tech CEO could just write a blog post claiming their AI is safe to a world where they have to provide hard cryptographic evidence.
And the regulatory bodies now possess real teeth. The European AI Office and member state authorities are fully operational right now.
Meaning they can actually knock on your door.
Exactly. They have the authority to request your technical documentation on demand. They can pull your models in for direct evaluation. They can legally require you to halt operations and take corrective measures.
That's massive.
And, of course, they can issue catastrophic fines for noncompliance.
And it's not just the regulators sitting in an office in Brussels proactively hunting for violations. If you are a business owner listening to this, the most dangerous part of this law isn't the AI office. It's the whistleblowers.
That is a phenomenal point. The Commission has made complaint and whistleblower channels officially live and available to the public.
That changes the entire risk profile for a company. Your competitor doesn't even need to out-innovate you anymore. They just need to hire an intern to poke your customer service boss, realize it doesn't clearly disclose its AI nature, or realize it strips out image metadata, and they can report you directly to the authorities.
Yeah, or a disgruntled employee can flag your internal system.
Exactly.
Which means building an AI system now requires an entirely new layer of technical governance. You can't just trust that the AI will behave. Consider the shift in how we manage REG systems.
Retrieval augmented generation.
Right. Previously, developers thought that if they just license a safe, well-aligned foundation model from OpenAI or Anthropic, they were automatically covered.
Because the model itself is safe.
That was the logic. But under these rules, agent governance and RE governance are entirely converging.
Okay, let's break that down, because ARGI is everywhere right now. If a listener isn't familiar, ARGI is essentially like giving an AI an open book test. Instead of relying purely on what the AI memorized during training, you allow it to search a specific database, like your company's internal HR documents, to find the exact answer before it speaks. But you're saying the foundation model is just one piece of the puzzle now.
The foundation model is basically just the engine, but the EU is regulating the entire car.
Oh, like that.
Yeah, downstream implementations and usage contexts matter immensely.
Right.
Governance now has to cover the entire operational chain. Think about the flow. It starts with the user.
Okay, the user.
Who talks to the agent.
Right.
The agent then queries the model.
Got it.
Then the model pulls from a retrieval source, which is your company database.
Okay.
Then it might use an external tool, like a calculator or a web scraper.
That's 5 steps already.
Right. Then it produces a generated output,
Okay.
which might require human approval before finally resulting in a published action.
Wow, that is a massive chain of custody to maintain. You're talking about tracking data through 8 different transformations in a matter of milliseconds.
Exactly. A compliant design requires you to maintain permissions, traceability, source attribution, version control, monitoring, and human intervention at every single step of that workflow.
That sounds impossible.
You have to prove what the system does, what specific tools it uses, what exact data it accesses, how outputs are reviewed, and who is legally accountable if something changes.
Seriously, how is that even technically possible? I mean, humans can barely keep track of their own browser tabs, let alone millions of microtransactions inside a neural network.
This is why we are seeing a massive explosion in the necessity of very specific technical standards. Things like open telemetry compatible tracing are becoming absolutely essential.
Let's translate that for the listeners. What is open telemetry tracing in this context?
Think of it like a flight data recorder, a black box for your software. It is an open source standard that allows you to reconstruct every single model call, every database query, and every tool action in chronological order.
So you can see exactly what went wrong.
Right. If your AI hallucinates and tells a customer they can have a full refund, OpenTelemetry allows the auditor to see exactly which database the AI pulled that bad policy from.
Yeah.
And for the content side, technologies like C2PA are vital for that machine-readable provenance we discussed earlier.
Right. C2PA. I mean, I like to think of C2PA as a digital nutrition label.
That's a good way to frame it.
Yeah, like one that is baked directly into a photo's pixels or a video's frames. You can't just crop it out. Anyone who inspects the file can see exactly which AI ingredients were used to generate or edit that media.
It's a perfect analogy. The nutrition label is cryptographically bound to the file.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If I'm a developer listening to this, I'm honestly terrified. With all this heavy, incredibly complex governance required, the tracing, the black boxes, the nutrition labels, the unbroken chains of custody, doesn't this essentially kill the nimble AI startup?
It definitely sounds like it would.
Right. Like, does this environment automatically hand a monopoly to massive enterprise platforms like Microsoft and Google simply because a 3-person team in a garage can't afford to build a compliance dashboard?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it actually creates a fascinating paradigm shift, but it absolutely does not kill startups. What it does is heavily favor bounded agents over broad general-purpose autonomous system.
Bounded agents. I love that term. Contrast that with what we usually see.
Well, a general-purpose autonomous agent is the sci-fi dream. It's an AI designed to do almost anything. Say, run my business, and it has broad permissions to access the web, draft emails, scrape data, and send invoices.
Sounds great on paper.
Sure, but from a regulatory and auditing standpoint, under this new law, that is a total nightmare. It is mathematically impossible to document exactly what data it will access or what its boundaries are on any given Tuesday.
Right, because it's making dynamic decisions on the fly.
Exactly. But a bounded agent is small, highly focused, and has a strictly defined role.
So if a startup builds an AI whose only job in the entire world is to process return requests for a shoe company,
Right.
and it is digitally locked in a basement where it only has permission to access the returns database and the shipping label tool, that's a bounded agent.
Yes. It can't write poetry, it can't browse Wikipedia, and it can't email the CEO. It has defined roles, approved tools, and a perfectly clear audit history.
Because it's boxed in.
Exactly. Because its scope is deliberately restricted, it is exponentially easier to approve, document, and sell than a general-purpose system with unclear permissions. Startups that pivot away from building do-everything bots and focus on building highly reliable, deeply governed bounded agents are going to thrive. Enterprises will actually be legally permitted to buy from them.
That makes perfect sense. The commercial risk for these enterprise buyers has shifted from this vague, abstract fear of regulatory exposure to a very concrete, immediate fear of evidence failure. It's no longer about whether your AI might go rogue and say something offensive. It's about whether you can physically hand a European inspector a binder that proves it won't.
And that binder is becoming known in the industry as the evidence pack.
The evidence pack.
Yeah. If you are an AI startup trying to close a B2B deal today, you can't just hand over a slick pitch deck and your API keys anymore. You need to hand over a system inventory, a complete data flow map, a model register, a detailed list of every tool permission, and a documented human oversight design.
That is a lot of paperwork.
It is. And you have to explicitly show how incidents are detected, logged, and handled.
Which opens up a massive implementation playbook for the tech industry. Because let's be honest, the average mid-market retail company in Spain or the average software vendor in the US selling to Europe doesn't have the internal expertise to map out open telemetry tracing for their customer support chatbot. They don't even know what C2PA stands for.
They absolutely don't. And more importantly, they don't want to figure it out from scratch. They want to pay someone to make the problem go away.
Naturally.
Thankfully, the EU Commission recognized this panic and recently published a voluntary code of practice on transparency.
Oh, that's helpful.
Yeah, this acts as a baseline for compliance, providing separate, clear guidelines for the people who make the AI and the people who use the AI. It even supplies official, standardized EU labeling icons you can use on your products. It significantly reduces the ambiguity.
But a code of practice is ultimately just a PDF document. It doesn't actually rewrite your company's software repository.
You hit the nail on the head. That gap, the chasm between the official government guidance and the actual living software code, is the single biggest commercial opportunity in tech right now. Companies desperately need technical partners to convert those legal rules into interface behavior, into metadata, and into operational controls.
So what does this all mean for the people building in this space? It means the real money right now isn't in giving generic legal advice or writing up 50-page policy decks that sit on a hard drive. It's in productized services.
Exactly.
It's about being the technical hands that actually build the compliance directly into the user interface. It's about going into a legacy enterprise and upgrading their outdated chatbot to include actual human escalation paths and bounded tool permissions.
That is exactly where the leverage is. We are seeing incredibly clever, actionable business strategies emerge right now to address this. For example, nimble AI consultancies are offering fixed-scope 7 to 10-day AI transparency readiness sprints targeted specifically at Spanish and EU-facing small to medium businesses.
A readiness sprint. I like that. It sounds urgent but manageable.
It is. In a matter of days, the consultants go in, inventory every piece of AI the company uses, classify the risk roles, review their public disclosures, map out their agent control gaps, and hand the executives a 30-day remediation roadmap. It turns panic into a project plan.
And what about the companies outside of Europe? Say I am that AI vendor in Miami or Latin America, and I am terrified I'm about to lose all my European clients because they view my software as a liability.
For them, the play is creating EU-ready AI vendor packs. You help that Miami vendor package up their system descriptions, their data flows, their governance controls, and their security answers into a neat procurement-ready bundle.
So they can just hand it over.
Right. You do the heavy lifting so that when the European buyer asks for proof, the vendor just hands over the pack. You make it incredibly easy for the European buyer to say yes without failing their own internal compliance audits.
And this massive demand for out-of-the-box compliance is precisely why the major cloud platforms, Microsoft, Google, AWS, are trying to gain leverage by packaging all of this together, right? They want to offer identity management, logging, governance, and model access as a single integrated suite.
Oh, absolutely.
They want to lock you into their ecosystem by promising to be the one-stop shop for keeping you out of European court.
They absolutely do. But there is still a massive lane for independent developers and agile consultancies to win here.
Really? How so?
The independents can win, and win big, by remaining entirely cloud agnostic. They can prove that they can deliver working controls and auditable implementations across any tech stack, whether it's AWS, Azure, or on-premise servers.
Because companies don't want to be locked in.
Right. Enterprise buyers don't just want a policy. They want to see the system redesigned so that the transparency code and those actual EU labeling icons actually function in their specific, messy, custom web publishing interfaces. Implementation beats policy decks every single time.
It's such a profound shift in how we value this technology as a society. We've spent the last 3 years obsessing over the shiny stuff, like which AI model is the smartest, which one is the fastest, which one can pass the bar exam or code a website in the fewest seconds.
Yeah.
But it feels like that era is over.
It really does.
Going forward, the true competitive advantage won't come from raw model capability. It will come from operational trust. In a world where these frontier models are basically becoming commodities available to everyone for pennies, the ultimate winner will be the one who can prove to a customer, to a regulator, and to the world that their system is safe, auditable, and entirely in control.
That is the new gold standard.
But it does make me wonder about a bizarre potential side effect of all this strict regulation. If the EU locks down the commercial market with these incredibly dense, expensive compliance demands, do we eventually see the rise of an underground ecosystem? Could we see a booming black market of ungoverned open-source AI models hosted on offshore servers designed entirely to bypass Article 50? If the official AI won't do what you want without filing a report, human nature suggests someone somewhere will build a shadow AI that will.
Yeah, that is a terrifying but probably very accurate thought for where this could lead next.
That's all for today's episode of the Toshogu Podcast. If you enjoyed it, like this episode, subscribe, and join us next time for the latest in AI. Until then, keep building what outlives you.